Ricky Starks. There was a story that came out today from Wrestle Purist and Fightful about Ricky Starks requesting his release. And I'll just pull up the story here. And it read here that Starks, despite being tied to an ongoing contract with AEW, has not appeared as part of in-ring action for nearly 10 months. And the outlets Ibu of Wrestle Purist, along with a follow-up story from Fightful Select, have noted that Starks was denied a release request by AEW in recent months, keeping him under contract for the time being. This doesn't come as any surprise. This is very clearly the MO for Tony Khan, that he is not cutting people early if they are under deals. He is going to pay you, but he is not going to use you. So this is kind of in line, and it brings up everybody's argument, whether for or against this this way of going about things. But it does seem consistent. Like, this is what Tony Khan is doing with talent that, he believes wants out. If you have a term of your contract, it's like, I will honor your contract until the end. But that goes both ways.
Yeah. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but had he not already asked for his release?
Well, he had not, as I recall, it was, I don't think he had actually requested the release.
Okay. He's just been public about stating he doesn't know why he hasn't been booked.
Yes. Okay. He had done that interview a while back about just not being used.
I mean, it would make sense that somebody in that position would ask for their release at some point. So maybe the most notable thing about this report from Fightful is that they believe that spring is the deadline for the end of his contract.
Yeah, so we're not talking about years left on his deal. We're talking months that are left. So, I mean, at this point, it just seems... Yeah, maybe it's frustrating. You're not being used. And by the time this deal's up, it'll probably be over a year since you've been on AEW television. But that is, that's just the way that Tony is going to handle these deals. Like, his thinking is obvious that I have a loaded roster and there's only so much amount of television time that if I feel someone is on their way out, what is the value? Like, he obviously does not see a value in using somebody for all they're worth on the way out to get somebody else over or to maximize what you're paying for. To him, he must look at his television time as valuable enough that there are many, many candidates. We always talk about people that are needing more time, and he's not going to dedicate it to your Ricky Starks or Ray Phoenixes, for instance.
But more so than that, he believes there's value in essentially grounding somebody from being a part of any promotion, because if he only felt that way, he could have just granted him his release and Ricky Starks could just go to whatever, any wrestling company. But he sees value in essentially making sure that nobody gets to use this person if he doesn't use them. And I think in the grand scheme of things, this has and will continue to really hurt Tony Khan and by extension AEW's reputation. They were built off of the feeling that this is sort of like some sort of like sanctuary, for professional wrestlers. And this doing stuff like this, like what's going on with Phoenix is almost directly counter to that sort of feeling. And the moment Ricky Starks is free, he, for instance, might make his way into NXT, might make his way into WWE, and there is going to be a hell of a promo within him that I think the WWE will be very happy to entertain and capitalize on, the way they did with a Sean Waltman coming over from Nitro, for instance. And I mean, it's debatable, like from a business perspective, whether or not it's the right move. But I really do feel like from an audience PR perspective, I don't think it's a good one.
Yeah, one thing is very clear, and that is AEW talent. And this does not go for everybody, but we certainly see way more instances of AEW talent that are not being utilized for whatever reason, that will be a lot more public about being disgruntled. And whether you think people are disgruntled or not, it's like there is, like, Corey Graves is a perfect example. Here was a guy that was, it was such a big deal because you just typically do not see WWE talent go that route of publicly voicing their displeasure. Like, I don't think anyone's going to expect Giovanni Vinci to start tweeting about how he hasn't been utilized in months, or the Wyatt Six that have like just fallen off the face of the earth over the last month. There are
not while they're under contract.
No, not while they're under contract. And that's what I'm talking about here. It's like contracted performers on both sides of things. So like, I think we can look at, what is, if like, my thought would be it's not just that you have some of these talents under contract. It's like, you're paying a lot of money for these people as well. And I would state that whether you take them off TV for 6 months, they're getting a big reaction if they show up at WWE. And if you use them right up until the end and they go to WWE, yeah, they're going to be fresh off AEW TV. I think the difference is minimal. I don't think you're doing any harm to your program to utilize these people, but their argument, and this may be AEW's argument, they're never going to address this publicly, but hey, they've lost an hour of TV. They've got 4 hours. And we know the extent of like all these roster members, and there's a lot of people hungry for TV time. So like, I do understand that of like, do I need somebody to invest in a 2-month program for that I know is leaving, as opposed to using someone I know I've got for another 2 years? And that's probably the calculus.
But that's not the debate. The debate isn't about whether or not they're using Ricky Starks. It's also about why they aren't granting him his release. What is Tony's answer to that?
I'm paying him. Like, it would be one thing, like, this is not a PFL situation where they are not giving any of these Bellator fighters fights on their contracts, and therefore they're not being paid. Mm-hmm. We can look at it from the other side of things, is that when, and this is not as much, but in the days of like the big WWE mass releases where talent would state, listen, I signed a 5-year contract and I don't know if I'm going to get those 5 years of pay. I might get cut after 1 year. I might get cut after 2 years. It's not a guarantee. It's, what you can say on the other side of things are like, listen, you sign a contract with AEW, you will be paid for the duration of those 3 years. Now, it is not a guarantee that you won't get benched for a year of that as well. Like that doesn't fly either. But that's going to be like the AEW argument here, is that, listen, you are being paid. You can also go out and do independence for most of these guys.
Not every independent.
Not every independent, as GCW found. I think GCW is a very unique case in that sense. But yeah, that's kind of where they are at, and that's going to create anger among talents, and yeah, it is going to be something like, you go to AEW, there is the potential that you could end up in that boat.
Yeah. Bottom line, okay, I think there are arguments for both sides, but bottom line, we're talking about Ricky Starks a lot. We have been talking about Ricky Starks a lot. So this whole thing, I think, has only served to promote Ricky Starks, at least, among the sort of like internet audience, which at this point is like a good chunk, as some sort of like figure that's been locked up, with under somebody else's, control. So I think the ultimate effect in all of this is that Ricky Starks is going to be a hot prospect whenever this contract ends.
He will be. I think that it's
more so than a run in AEW, I think, could have actually done for him.
Right. Like, he's going to come out of this, like, and we will see, going back and forth, like, you do get that brand new, that new coat of paint by going to a new company, and Ricky Starks will have that. And certainly Ricky Starks is not going to be the last talent that is like discussed like this. Like, there are other ones as well. And I mean, that's probably some of the thinking too, is that you give Ricky Starks a release. How do you give Ricky Starks a release? And then there's not 4 other people that are in the same boat that want out of their deals.
But like, the thing is, listen to what we just said. Ricky Starks in just going to the media and telling people about his current situation, and who knows like how Ibu got this story. But okay, let's say let's say it had whatever, something to do with Ricky Starks' camp, whatever. The fact that these stories are out there is, I think, enough of an encouragement for talents in similar situations to make noise. against the wishes of a Tony Khan. Like, is it ultimately a bad move for Phoenix to say what he said if people are going to be talking about him? Will it be a bad move for other talents to go on a podcast to talk about, I don't know, I'm not getting booked, seeing what has kind of come about for Ricky Starks. If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.